Welcome to 10-Minute Astrology, a video series designed to introduce you to the principles of astrology and its components in a fun and easy-to-understand way. I'm Amy Herring. I'm a professional astrologer in Seattle. You can find me on the web at HeavenlyTruth.com. If you'd like to schedule a reading or find out about personal one-on-one tutoring sessions, you can do so at my website. During this series, we will be discussing natal astrology only, which is a branch of astrology that focuses on the life of an individual. The principles in this series will be introduced from the perspective of evolutionary astrology, which is a tradition that focuses on your spiritual growth and development, past life karmic issues, and present life purpose, as well as the personal tools you've come here to develop to help you live a fulfilling life. Each episode is only 10 minutes long, and a new episode will be available periodically at my website, so please enjoy this episode. Welcome to 10-Minute Astrology. This is episode 8. Since episode 4, we've been focusing on each planet one by one. In this episode, we'll focus solely on the astrological meaning of Mars. Each planet and sign has a symbol that represents them, called a glyph. This is the glyph for Mars. The glyphs are useful to know to help you identify the location of each planet, in this case Mars, quickly in a chart. Almost everything that Mars symbolizes can be traced back to the idea of our will. Will is a word that's found its way into many English words and phrases, such as willpower, willfulness, or the saying, where there's a will, there's a way. Will could be summarized as the expression of a desire or a choice, and by extension, our ability to act on that desire. Decision-making is not just an intellectual exercise, although it may be mostly intellectual if we're debating our choices or weighing pros and cons with each potential choice. Once we do choose, for whatever reason, we're asserting our will. When we say, I will, we're making a choice, expressing an intention, and committing our energy. We've all had the experience where we say one thing, but we do another. Our will is most often connected to what we actually do, and what we really want, not just what we say we want, or think we should want. Willpower is a word we often use when we're talking about our ability to withstand or resist something, whether through denying ourselves something we want or forcing ourselves to do something that we don't want. In this sense, it almost seems like willpower would be a Saturn word, because Saturn governs rules, commitments, and limitations, but we'll get to that in a later episode. Pure will does tend to benefit from some direction or government when utilized in daily life, to prioritize our desires in both the long term and the short term. But want is a direct desire, and when we want with our guts, not just our common sense, we're in Mars's territory. Mars doesn't care what we should want or what would be prudent, only what we do want in that visceral primal way. Mars is often called our action planet. An action may often begin with a desire, a want, and this desire can build up a tension inside of us, which then drives us to pursue what we want, to take an action toward getting the object of our desire. We use our Mars when we initiate anything. Now, it could be argued that the moon, for example, which governs our emotions and heart, might have more to do with wants and desires, and that Mars itself is maybe just the heart's servant. That argument has some merit, but there's a hunger and a possessing, conquering energy in the word desire, and that aligns more with the spirit of Mars. Mars also has a hand in conflict. A conflict with someone is not merely a polite way to describe an argument. A conflict with someone is a clash of wills. One person wants one thing, another wants something else. The two people are then in conflict. A conflict actually precedes an argument, and a conflict may not even end up in argument at all, or at least an argument is not necessarily the only solution to resolve a conflict. How you deal with that conflict is revealed through Mars's placement by sign and house in your chart. Do you state your case and risk an argument? Do you avoid the situation and hope it resolves itself? These methods and more are among the possibilities. Anger is a sure sign we've entered into conflict, and it's also governed by Mars, as it often arises as a defense mechanism, self-defense being Mars's domain, or in response to the frustration we experience when our will is blocked or thwarted. Mars's placement in our chart can tell us what our passions are, not necessarily our casual interests or hobbies, but what we're willing to pursue because we feel motivated to capture, resolve, or even fight for or against something. In general, whatever makes your blood boil can be traced back to Mars, whether it's boiling because of anger and defense, or excitement and desire, and that includes sexual desire. Our sex drive, what turns us on and off, and how we go about pursuing the one we want can all be traced back to Mars's position in our chart. Astrology is commonly applied toward understanding matters of love and sex, often simplistically summed up by Venus, representing love and affinity, and Mars representing sex. Mars does have a great deal to do with our sexual natures, not only in that sex is a physical act, and our Mars placement can reveal a lot about our physical constitution and how we expel and replenish our energy, but also that Mars holds sway over how we express our passions and drive, and our sex drive being one of these. In fact, our basic primal drives for fundamental things like food, shelter, and sex can often be traced back to Mars, because Mars represents the most animal part of us that understands the primal need to survive. Finally, Mars symbolizes our sense of personal power, insomuch as power is an extension of our will. Using our will is exercising our personal power, and a strong will and confidence in our own powerfulness, they're closely related. When someone is willful, full of will, they're difficult to control because they have a power all their own that they'll not easily relinquish. This doesn't mean that they'll win every conflict or get their way all the time, nor that they'll be able to overpower others, but that they're not easily overpowered themselves. In general, the misuse of Mars tends to show up in either the chronic overuse or underuse of our own will and subsequent power. We may do this in an overt way, by being too aggressive or attempting to overpower others, or we may subvert our own will too easily and allow others to enforce their will upon us. In either case, whether we're predator or prey, our will is at work. Mars is often referred to as the war planet, painting a picture that Mars is aggressive and conflict-seeking. But Mars is not inherently aggressive, as that's a style of expression that can vary given the sign in which Mars resides. When the potential for conflict arises, it's Mars that we call upon, so in that way it is the war planet. But not because Mars is quick to go to war, and is only going to employ that solution for conflict resolution with no other options. Mars is built to defend and attack, but our reasons for engaging in an argument or some other sort of warfare, and the style in which we do so, are as varied as the signs and houses. When what we want conflicts with what another person wants, Mars can settle the issue, but whether it does that by negotiation, aggressive attack, or surrender all depends on the sign through which it expresses. Even refusing to take an action is an action, a deliberate act of will. Just as Venus has been stereotyped as a planet representing the feminine, Mars is often associated with the masculine. This has been interpreted in the past as a division, with Venus being synonymous with women and Mars with men, dividing the two planets along with two genders into tidy little boxes. Books and teachings will reflect the zeitgeist in which they were written or adopted, and astrology texts are no exception. Older astrology texts often advise that Venus in a man's chart will dictate the kind of woman he is sexually attracted to, and Mars in a woman's chart will indicate the type of man she is sexually attracted to, essentially encouraging a given gender to disown part of their experience and project it onto somebody of the opposite gender. The strict language of binary gender designations is also inappropriately limiting in this symbolic language. The terms masculine and feminine can be useful in understanding the Mars-Venus planetary pair, but only if we understand the symbolism at work outside of the literal physical gender definitions. The masculine energy, represented by Mars in this sense, is the pursuing, outgoing type of energy, as the yang to the yin of the yielding, receptive energy of the feminine. Even that, however, will be greatly modified by the sign and house placements of each planet in your own chart, and is not reflective of one's specific gender or body parts as much as the symbolic nature of the outward and inward, projective and receptive energies that we all have access to. Let's have an example. When Mars is found in Scorpio in the natal chart, it indicates a person who is intensely driven by their passions, who wants to take everything they do to its deepest potential and beyond. They will not usually be satisfied with half efforts or careful restrained actions. It's courageous, full speed, breaking through their own barriers action that makes them feel most alive. When they get angry, their reaction is strong and forceful, sometimes displayed, but often smoldering and hidden. The intensity of their anger can consume them, and they may be at risk for extreme actions fueled by the depth of their emotional response. They don't easily let go of what they want to pursue and can be consumed by their desire, obsessed with obtaining something, sometimes to a fault. In the 7th house, this intensity is directed into relationship and an intense need to connect deeply, not superficially or casually, with one or two significant people in their lives that they can build trust with. They may be at risk for overwhelming significant others with their intensity and sometimes possessiveness, especially if the partner needs more breathing room in the relationship than a Mars and Scorpio person does. They give and require loyalty and transparency from those they love in order to trust them, and they need somebody who's equipped to handle their intensity. That's it for this episode of 10-Minute Astrology. Jupiter will be featured in the next episode. Until then, keep looking up.